So hey guys, today I was just thinking about what would happen if we just removed this one line of text from Super Star Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis here. So this one line, if you do, you cannot normal or special summon monsters for the rest of this turn. So this line of text, you could argue, is like really holding back Typhon. So we're going to assume that our opponent is playing Kashtira and they made, let's say we have Barret, and then we have Arise Heart, Fenrir, and Shangri-Ira. So this will be a little bit wild, I think. So I guess Shangri-Ira will probably also special summon a unicorn, not that that like super matters. So all right, now let's assume we just simply do normal summon Ash Blossom, and then we just convert this to a Typhon, right? And after we do this, we can still play later. But okay, we're going to go Typhon, run over the Fenrir, and then we're going to spin back the Arise Heart, and Baron DeFleur will not be able to activate, and then maybe they'll activate the Unicorn after this, and then we get to Shangri-Ira zone lock, like one extra zone. So you have like maybe 2 zones locked overall. So you have 3 zones and the 3 main monster zones to play with, and then the 4th zone being your extra monster zone to kind of do whatever you want with. So kind of a little bit constricting, but perfectly playable, I guess. And Baron is not activatable because Typhon. So now at this point in time, we are no longer under macro. There's no like Fenrir, and you just dismantled essentially the whole board. So here, I don't know, we could do just about anything. Like if we Fiendsmith combo, we could Fiendsmith combo. So that, well, actually, no, you can't Fiendsmith combo because Unicorn would have banished like your guy. But maybe we can Millennium combo or something, and then we're fine, I guess. But you know what? Well, one thing that I forgot to mention, I suppose, is that this effect, not hard once per turn. So we could actually, after spinning back, in this case it'll be a Rise Heart, we can go Typhon on top of Typhon. We'll spin back another card. Maybe we'll spin back the Shangri-Ira here, and then Typhon on top of Typhon. So then we'll spin back the Baron, and then, oh yeah, normal summon Ash Blossom Joe Spring out of the whole board except for a lone unicorn. So from here, we could then proceed to play the game, I guess. So I don't know. We can do just about anything here, really. And actually, in fact, you know what else we could have done instead of just this? Because, you know, this is a Typhon. We actually could have done spin back Baron, and then we could have done Typhon on Typhon, and then Typhon on Typhon, and then we could have then made Zeus, and then Zeus the board. And I think we might have an extra activation of Zeus even. So that's from just removing this one line of text, right? And how many boards, well, end boards can actually deal with getting Typhon multiple times, but potentially threatening the Typhon effect multiple times, because this effect is soft once per turn, actually. And then you can actually technically make a Zeus on top of this, which I think is partially why this line of text is here, is to prevent you from making Zeus with Typhon, I think. But yeah. I guess there's also Typhon being put on top of itself, which is also another kind of issue. But all right. How would you contend with that? But potentially just turning off a lot of your strongest negates and then putting them back, and then setting up interruption for next turn, technically. And you know, we don't even have to turn this Typhon into Zeus. We could make an XYZ later and then turn that also into a Zeus. So for example, if we were playing just an XYZ deck, I guess, of some sort, like Sprite, we could do Downward Zeus later, just as part of the combo, more or less. I guess the only downside is we wouldn't be able to activate Gigantic Sprite effect, boohoo. But at the same time, you know, you would have Typhon, potentially, which is also going to still turn off a bunch of extra deck monsters, depending on like exactly what deck you're playing, right? So with, for example, Centurion, you wouldn't be happy about this because, you know, no Auxilia effect, no Legacia effect. And this is activatable, but it's not like really good. In fact, I think like almost all of your monsters are turned off by Typhon for Centurion. I don't think there's like a single target that you currently run for the most part, except if you might play this one. Uh, oh, oh, let's see. Well, hello. Uh, well, what was the name of this card? Uh, Enigmaster Pact Bit. I'm so lost, but it's 2.9k attack and not 3k. So that this is activatable if you're playing it. Aside from that, you have like Chaos Angel, which isn't activatable, and then all of the guys you can make off Crimson Dragon also not activatable. So yeah, that sucks. But all right, now let's assume you did make that Zeus play. Now the problem with that somewhat is that now your opponent can make Typhon 3 times on you. So they can do the same crap. And you know, if I were to normal summon Ash Blossom, you would somewhat have to deal with the Ash Blossom, as crazy as that sounds, but you know, Ash Blossom's not even the best thing I could be summoning. I could be summoning like a Fenrir, activating Fenrir to search Unicorn, and then I can turn this into like a Typhon. You out this Fenrir slash Typhon. I'll just special summon Unicorn, and then I'll make Typhon again. And then, you know, if you deal with this Typhon maybe, then I could slap Typhon on top of Typhon, and I could also slap Zeus on top of Typhon. So, yeah, that would kind of be amusing to see, you know, just Typhon being slapped on Typhon and then Zeus being slapped on top of Typhon, and then your opponent just making a Typhon, outing that Zeus to then make their own Zeus, which then you can also out with Typhon. But you could also see how like tiring and annoying like a format like that would be. But I think this simply goes to show that Typhon could be a completely broken card if we really want to. All we would have to do is hit backspace right about here and get rid of a few words, and then Typhon becomes like an absolutely meta warping, game warping, just like, yeah, straight up game warping card where you just have to slot in like 3 copies of Typhon and then like 1 or 2 copies of Zeus into every single deck, which is like, do we really want to do this? Have we been through this song and dance before? Sounds familiar, like similar to, I don't know, maybe every deck going like IP, Unicorn, Nightmare, Phoenix, and then now we can technically go IP into SP, but that's not like that common. You usually don't go IP into SP, you just run SP anyways, you know, or just to make SP, I guess. Which, speaking of, gets beaten by Typhon, or perhaps the second Typhon, or the third one. Or, you know, the fact that you could technically like Downard Zeus as well, like just with a random XYZ after this point. So in this case, I don't know, maybe we're playing, let's say Zodiac. We could Barrage, and then Barrage summon a guy, and then we just summon a really big Zeus after this. And then every single time you would normal or special summon any sort of monster, we're going to have to immediately activate the Zeus, because otherwise, you know, you're threatening making Typhon with every single monster card's existence, which is just, yeah, arguably dumb. And now that I think about it, this would be like not even that bad for Orcus. I mean, you'd be locked out Zeus, but it's kind of funny how like imagine that you're going first, and then you see normal summon Orcus Harport. Oh man, I need to put this harp into like the graveyard or banish it immediately, right? And if you put it into the graveyard, you know, Harport is going to then special summon like Girsu, and then it's like, oh man, can't believe he summoned Girsu, and then he's going to send like Nightmare. Nightmare is going to bring back World 1 could bring back like Nightmare or Harp. And then you have to send every single one of these cards, because every single one of these threatens Typhon, which is pretty sickening. And this actually gives you more reason to actually just only like some decks might then start considering like, yeah, you know what, it's not worth special summoning from the extra deck anymore. I'll just special summon maybe once or 0 times, and then that will be like my whole turn, you know, just doing a whole lot of nothing. You know, as its own format, I think that this would be actually kind of interesting. But yeah, this is definitely not the kind of game I would want to be playing, like just consistently over time. Sounds pretty miserable, honestly. But I don't know, if you guys think it would be interesting, I guess let me know why in the comments below. And yeah, that's about all I've got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video, where hopefully, you know, we don't see a Typhon errata. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.